On Monday, April 4th, the final phase of the contribution reform will take effect. You may be thinking, what is the contribution reform? What does it mean for me as the insured person? And what beneficial impact can I expect from it? Today, I will discuss the contribution reform and empower you with information on its value and the benefits for you, the insured person. Let's talk about the contribution reform and essentially what it is. The contribution reform refers to essential changes in rates in order to update and to enhance your benefit payments. Simply put, this means that the more you pay to Social Security through your weekly cash deductions, the more you will receive in terms of your cash benefit payout. Furthermore, the contribution reform allows SSB to deliver on its mission of providing you, our valued insured person, with lifetime coverage through all the benefit types that we have to offer. So once again, the contribution reform, it refers to increased Social Security contributions that are being paid by both the employer and the insured person, but it also results in increased cash benefit payouts for all of our benefits, for those that fall under the short-term branch, those that fall under the employment injury branch, and those that fall under the long-term branch. Again, you pay more, you receive more from Social Security. For you to greatly understand the importance of the contribution reform, I want us to look at the reasons why the reform was necessary that came into effect in 2019. The contribution reform, one of the reasons for it rather, is to expand the quality of the benefits. It allows Social Security to provide you with a greater quality of payments that meet today's needs versus the needs of 16 years ago. And we refer to 16 years ago because that is the last time when Social Security contributions were increased. Now, as you can imagine, several factors have happened since then. There's inflation, that's the biggest one that we can talk about, but it holds the greatest impact because things aren't what they were 16 years ago. So you can imagine that things are going up in every aspect of our community, but your Social Security benefits have not gone up. That does you no justice as the valued insured person. So we at SSB, we need to improve the quality of your benefits, and we do that by implementing the contribution reform that allows us to provide you with a greater benefit value via your cash contribution. The second reason for the contribution reform is to safeguard lifetime benefits. Social Security provides benefits for your entire lifetime and even after you have departed from this wonderful world through benefits that are paid to your family. So when you think about Social Security, you have to understand that Social Security is providing benefits for you, the insured person, for your family, and for your future. So once again, the reform allows Social Security to maintain a certain standard in terms of cash payout that you deserve from all your years of employment. And that leads me to my next point, which is the sustainability of the Social Security Fund. Social Security is essentially social insurance, and this means that it exists for the current and future generations to come. I want us to put it into perspective. Think about the contributions that you are now making. As it relates to me, I am a member of the millennial population. So I have been paying contributions when I started to work about 12, 13 years ago. And those contributions that I've been paying have been contributing towards my short-term benefits. They have also been contributing towards my need for employment injury benefits if I get hurt on the job. And they will also be there when I attain retirement age and need to claim my cash benefits for retirement. But I say that for you to understand that Social Security exists to maintain the sustainability of the fund. We're securing the social insurance for our generation and for future generations to come. The contributions that I am currently paying, those go towards ensuring that Social Security can meet the demands to pay the pensions for those that came before me. Not only pensions, all other benefit types. Now, when I attain my retirement age of age 60, those that are coming up after me, the Generation Z, the Gen Alpha, those are the persons who will be contributing to the Social Security scheme so that I can then receive my Social Security cash benefits. So it is the continuity of the fund, and we have to maintain that sustainability by increasing the contribution rates so that all those who have been contributing, who intend to contribute, can see the value of the contribution reform. I want us to take a brief look at the history of Social Security benefits. From June 1981 to December 2000, the maximum weekly benefit that persons could have received for short-term benefits, those being injury, maternity, and sickness, was $104. The maximum weekly pension was $78. Now, in 2001, that was the very first contribution reform for Social Security. That resulted in an increase in cash benefits for insured persons. So that took the maximum weekly cash benefit from $104 to $256. And the maximum weekly pension went up from $78 to $192. So it's evident to see the significant increase that gave our insured persons. Now, the reform brings three varying increases. It brings a 0.5% increase in 2019. It brings another 0.5 increase from January 2020 to April 22. And from April 4, 2022 onwards, we will see a 1% increase. So I'm throwing out these percentages, but you may be wondering, what does that necessarily translate to in terms of cash benefits? Now, from July 2019 to 2020, let's take a historical look. The weekly cash benefit increased from $256 to $352. That's almost $100 increase for injury, maternity, and sickness benefits. In terms of weekly pension, it increased from $192 weekly to $264. Now, when we look at the other increase that was implemented January 2020 and will remain in effect until April 3rd, 2022, the maximum weekly cash benefit for injury, maternity, and sickness will now be $384, or rather currently is $384. And the weekly pension, the maximum amount, is $288. Now the final implementation, the last stage of the contribution reform that's coming soon, that's coming April 4th, that will see yet another increase, not only an increase in your Social Security contributions, but it will see an increase in your cash benefits. So persons will now see a maximum weekly cash benefit of $416 for injury claims, maternity benefit claims, and sickness benefit claims. And the weekly maximum pension will now become $312 for persons to see a total yearly pension income of $16,224. Now listen to those numbers. The final phase that's coming into effect April 4th will allow us to see $416 as your weekly cash benefit, as opposed to $104 where Social Security, what you used to receive when Social Security first opened its doors in 1981. To further elucidate what I just mentioned, I want to use a comparative approach for us to put things into perspective. I want us to look at Social Security benefits before the contribution reform versus Social Security benefits after the contribution reform. Now, prior to the reform, here are some facts. Social Security benefits had remained the same from January 2001 to June 2019. The maximum sickness, maternity, and injury benefit was $256 weekly, and the maximum weekly pension was $192, which is equivalent to $9,984 yearly. Now, after the contribution reform, and this is where we see the significant benefits that the reform has brought, sickness, maternity, and injury, and also pension payments have increased by 5 new salary and benefit categories. Again, prior to the reform, it was only $256. Now with the reform, the maximum is $416. That is undoubtedly a significant increase for insured persons. Similarly, the maximum pension increases to $312 for those in receipt of Social Security pensions. The table currently displayed highlights the varying contribution and corresponding cash benefit phases. It has dates of implementation, weekly earnings by range, weekly insurable earnings, and weekly cash benefits. With the 2019 to 2022 contribution reform, we now see a total of 5 additional salary categories for a total of 13 salary categories. By including more wage bands, which means salary categories, SSB is now able to provide improved cash benefits that are more realistic to your actual weekly earnings. For example, prior to the reform, if you made $600 weekly, whenever you were ill, all you would receive is $256 from SSB. Now with the reform, if your salary is $500 and over, $520 of that income is insured, and your weekly cash benefit for sickness, maternity, and injury would be a maximum of $416. So that example speaks to the short-term benefits, but I want us to take a look at the lifetime investment that you will be making through your long-term benefits, specifically your pension. Let's take a look at a real-life example. As you can see on the screen, we have an example here of a person who would have worked for an average of 30 to 35 years throughout their professional career. Now, what they would have contributed to Social Security would range from $30,000 to $40,000. Now, this is an estimated average, and it's based on a weekly salary of $420. What the employee would have contributed over that period in time would have been $18.45 a week. Now, when we times that by 30 years, the total that the employee would have contributed would have been $28,782. I want us to focus on the fact that this refers specifically to the employee contribution. So the total contribution investment from paying $18.45 a week for 30 years would have been $28,782. Now let's look at the return on your contribution investment. Your yearly pension, and remember this is someone with a weekly salary of between $420 to between $459. What they would receive as their yearly pension is $13,728. Now when we multiply that by 3 years, you can see that that person would have received from Social Security $41,184. Now this return on the contribution investment was calculated based on the best 3 years. But we can see here from this realistic example that what the employee contributed to SSB over the 30 years was $28,782 versus what the employee received from SSB in only 3 years is $41,184. Now this isn't even in addition to the other Social Security benefits that you may have received throughout your professional career. You know, you may have had a child, so you applied for maternity benefit. You may have claimed sickness benefit, and all of these are contributions that you were duly due and you received them throughout your professional career. Now, also, if you pass away, which is something that we don't really ever want to occur, but it's a part of life, your family is then next in line to receive survivor's benefit. A Social Security cash benefit payout does not end with the insured person themselves. It continues. So the investment, as we've always been saying, is not only for you, but it's for your family as well. So you must take that into account when you can understand the appreciation of the contribution reform. What I want you to remember as the greatest takeaway from this presentation is to not think of SSB as a tax. Think of it as an investment that entitles you to all the benefits that are currently available, all 10 of them. And these are sickness, maternity, injury, funeral grant, medical care, invalidity, disability, death and survivors, and retirement. Social Security is an investment for you, your family, and your future. And that concludes my presentation. Stay tuned as we will be having our live question and answer next. On Monday, April.
This is your step-by-step guide to using the online contribution calculator. Start by using the SSB website at www.socialsecurity.org.bz. Click on the online service to view the drop-down list and select Contribution Calculator. This takes you to the calculator's homepage. Here you can enter either your weekly salary or your total monthly salary. For example, we will be using a weekly salary amount for persons who are paid on a weekly basis. Here we enter 250 and simply click on the calculate my contribution. The breakdown shows the exact weekly portion for employee versus the employer's portion and the combined total. For example, your employee portion is highlighted in green at $7.14. The employer's portion as $14.46 for the combined weekly total of $21.60. It is important to note that the employee's portion is deducted from your salary while your employer's portion is deducted from the employer's income. Both portions are then combined for the total payment to SSB on the employee's behalf. To calculate your total monthly deduction, you simply multiply the employee's weekly portion of $7.14 by 4 or 5 weeks depending on the month. The contribution breakdown also highlights the 3 phases of the contribution reform. This is helpful to track your contribution history.
The experts that I have with me here are Mrs. Marie Chavarria, who is our benefits manager. She's to the right. And we also have Mr. Carlton McCoy, our contributions manager, to the left. So both of these Social Security experts are here to provide responses to all your questions on the final phase of the contribution reform. To guide our conversation, I want you to take note of a key and crucial and important fact. Social Security contributions are going to be increased, but what will also increase will be the cash benefits that you receive from SSB when you make a claim. So let's get into the questions that you guys have for us. We have a question here from Ruth Manzanero. And Ruth wants to know if contributions are going to increase now that everything is getting more expensive. I'd like to ask Mr. McCoy to just elaborate on what Ruth is asking here and provide some context for her.
Well, the presentation today has to do with a small contribution increase and as well as an increase in benefits. Now, as you are aware, these increases were planned from 2019. And initially, the recommendation was for us to increase the rate from 8 to 10% in an instance, right? But because we are aware that this would have been burdensome to both employers and employees, the increases were planned at 0.5% in 2019, 0.5%, another half in 2020, and then in 2021, an additional 1%. However, as you are aware, COVID came and interrupted everything, and so the final 1% had to be delayed. This 1% now is going to be introduced on April 4th of this year. And like I said, you have to also consider the fact that this means also an increase in benefits. And the increase in benefits is very necessary, especially today, as we are aware that the amount that was being paid in terms of benefits was not adequate before, and that is what we are trying to adjust in this time. Thank you.
Okay, so our second question comes from Jose Lopez. Jose says, how drastically will it affect me if I am working and all of a sudden get fired and I can't pay my contributions? Could I continue paying later?
Well, you have several options. You can apply to pay voluntary, and voluntary basically means that you're paying towards a pension. If you decide that you will engage in some form of trade, then you can apply to pay self-employed. And paying self-employed entitles you to all the benefits that you would receive if you are employed by somebody else. Or if you decide that you will wait until you get a job, then you can resume with your payments, and all benefits then will continue to accumulate.
Right. So we have a question here from Chris. Chris says, can an employee ask for a higher contribution payment to be taken out of their pay in order to receive a more greater return when they do get sick? That is an excellent question, Chris.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are very much interested in earning higher benefits. But in this situation here, you can only pay contribution based on your earnings. And your earnings includes, additional benefits that you may receive or over time, and all of those are added together, and based on that, then your contribution, then you pay your contribution based on that. You cannot arbitrarily just decide that you want to pay at a higher rate even though you're receiving a lesser salary. It doesn't work that way. The only time that you have that option, if you are paying as a self-employed, then you can declare a higher income, at least by not greater than $50 at the beginning of each year. And even that, there are certain conditions. Thank you.
All right, another question here from Ruth. Ruth wants to know, how many contributions do I need to have in order for me to get benefits?
Good day, Ruth. As I mentioned before, once you're paying to the Social Security benefit, your contributions are paid by you and your employer. You qualify. You will need to qualify for each respective benefit. We offer, as I mentioned before, we offer short-term, long-term, and employment injury benefit. As it relates to sickness benefit, for example, you need to have at least 50 contributions paid since 1981. And when we look at what would be payable to you, you will need to have been working at least five weeks prior to the first day that you were sick in the retroactive 13 weeks from the first day of incapacity. As it relates to pension, as mentioned earlier, you must have at least 500 contributions. Please check our website for further details on the qualifying contributions for each benefit type. We offer sickness benefit, employment injury, survivor benefit, invalidity, retirement benefit, and more. Check our website for further details. And if you have any question in pertaining to any specific benefit, please don't be afraid to contact our offices. Thank you.
Okay, we have two more questions here from Jose, and it is twofold. The first question says, I have been in a problem in my lifetime that I had to work for someone, and they told me that they were paying Social Security. When I went to Social Security, there was nothing that they paid for me. How can I get through with this problem? And then also, Jose wants to know, is there any application to see our contributions online, or do we need to go to Social Security office to check that out?
Yeah, I'm very glad that you asked that question. In the future, let me answer the second question first. We are almost there that you will be able to view your contributions online. And it's very important that you do it, particularly for you to know if your employer is paying for you. And secondly, that the employer is paying at the correct rate. Now, your first concern was you indicated that you were previously working for someone and then you came to Social Security to check on your contributions, and you found out that no contributions were paid on your behalf. Now, this is a concern that we try to address on a daily basis. And I say we try to address because there are some responsibilities that both the person and Social Security have. Now, the first thing that you would need to do is to inform Social Security. You can either email, you can go to our website, you can go, I think we have a call center, or you can visit the office and make a report on that previous employment. What Social Security is going to do is after we get that information from you, we are going to investigate the matter. Now, there are many instances where the employer agree that these persons have been working with them and they are willing to pay the contributions. But there are some more challenging cases as well, where the employer insists that, that person was never employed. And in cases like these, then this matter has to be taken to court. And this is when the responsibility of the insured person comes in, that you will need to present yourself as a witness and, so that we can prosecute the matter. In many instances, I know some persons prefer not to present themselves, or they don't want to face their employer. But you have to understand that your testimony is very important for us to to get those contributions paid. But I encourage you, before you even get to that stage, I always advise insured persons, employees, to visit the office, if not twice a year, at least once per year, to check that your contributions are being paid, to check that your contributions are paid at the correct rate. Because you don't want to be disappointed some years down the road just to find out that you are not entitled to, let's say, a pension because contributions were not paid on your behalf. So just to wrap up your concern, you make the complaint to the office, we investigate it, and if the employer is willing to pay, the employer is going to pay. If the employer refuses to pay, then obviously the courts will decide on that matter. Thank you.
Okay, and also, Jose, the current process is that you need to fill out a form that is available on our website. It's called the Employment Declaration Form, whereby you can indicate the places where you've worked, and we will provide you with your contribution history. That is the current practice until we go online with our contributions portal for the insured person. So one more comment from Mr. McCoy.
Yes, I said, I wanted to add also that the timeline is very important. We find out that a lot of insured persons wait until they are entitled to a benefit or they are about to claim retirement, and then they visit the office to check their contribution history. Now, it's very important that this is done in a timely manner, and I say this because there are some contributions that can be statute barred. What I'm saying, statute barred means that for Social Security purpose, that Social Security cannot go beyond 6 years and enforce the employer to pay contribution. So let's say, for argument's sake, that you decide that 10 years after that after you were employed with a particular employer, you decide to visit the office to check for your contribution or to claim a benefit just to find out that those contributions were not being paid. Now, if 6 years has already passed, then we cannot go to that employer and make a claim, because it has anything beyond 6 years is statute barred. So it's very important that that complaint is made on a timely basis. Thank you.
Okay. A question here from Emmy. Emmy wants to know, when will the new payment start? Emmy, the effective date will be Monday, April 4th, 2022. And for a full listing on the contribution rates, you can visit our website, where you'll be able to find how much your employer's contribution will be and how much your contribution should be. All right, so there's a question here from Evian, and Evian wants to know if you can choose who you leave your benefits to after you die. This is referring to the beneficiaries.
Yes, thanks for your question, Evian. In fact, it's your you have the opportunity to provide at the point of registration who is your beneficiary. When you indicate who is your beneficiary, you have to ensure that you are declaring that is the person that is legally entitled to your benefit. That is, if you're married, then automatically your spouse will be the beneficiary. If you're living in a communal relationship and you're still married, you must present evidence that you have you are not legally obliged to maintain your wife. But yes, you can declare who is your beneficiary as it relates to your spouse.
Okay, and another benefits-related question here from Teresita. She wants to know if her contributions will be able to cover her if she falls sick and is out of work for 1 month. Will I receive my benefits in a lump sum, or will I receive weekly payments?
One of the first qualifying conditions to be entitled to sickness benefit is at the time that you became sick, that you are uninsurable employment on the day that you became incapable of working. That's the first qualifying conditions for sickness benefits. So if you're unemployed and you become sick and you will not be insurable and you will not qualify for the sickness benefit. You must be employed to qualify for your sickness benefit. Whatever contributions you may have already those are towards your long-term benefit payments.
Okay, and another one here from Teresa once again. She wants to know, if I happen to pass away before the age of retirement, can my family member continue paying my contributions in order for them to receive the benefits of my pension?
Okay, let me try to answer your question, Mr. Rosita. If I happen to pass away before the age of retirement, can my family member continue paying? No, contributions are payable if you are working, and the contributions are paid by your employer on your behalf, and they contribute your portion that is payable and their portion. So if you retire before, your family cannot continue to contribute on your behalf. If you choose to retire before, you can claim your retirement benefit between the ages as between the age of 60 to 64. At the age of 65, you are entitled to your retirement benefit, whether you're working or not.
Right, a follow-up question here from Evian. Evian wants to know, how often will you guys reevaluate the structure? Can we expect another increase before 5 years after April?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I can't say if we can expect another increase before 5 years. But what I can say is that delaying the 1% increase, which was to be introduced from 2021, does have effect on this social security, on the position of social security. Now, on an annual basis, we are advised as to where we are in terms of our long-term obligations, and we are advised also if there is need to do some other reform. Currently, there is no other reform in place. Like I said, I'm not sure if there will be another one within the 5 years because, there are factors that needs to be considered. And like I said, the delay of the 1% is something that we need to look at. And also, as you are aware, that paying out benefits during the past year has increased significantly because of COVID. That is not to say, though, that within 5 years that there will be another increase. Thank you.
Right. A question here from Chris. Chris wants to know, if a person begins to pay as self-employed, will they need to start over from one contribution before getting any benefits?
If you choose to register as a self-employed, you can join the self-employed scheme between the ages of 18 to 60 years. For you to qualify for any of the benefits available, you will need to contribute at least 26 weeks before you can qualify. In additional, like as in pertains to sickness benefit, whereby the first one of the qualifying conditions is that you have 50 contributions, you would have to have those 50 contributions from 1981, and you would have to have at least 26 contributions paid as a self-employed to qualify for sickness benefit.
All right, I see about 3 more questions here, and they are all excellent questions. This one is from Kelly. Kelly says, from what moment should the employer have to start to pay Social Security? And if a person only works for hours, how many hours do they need to work before they have to pay? She further explained that the person does about 25 to 30 hours of work a week.
Thank you very much for that question. That's a very good question indeed. And the person, as long as the person works 8 or more hours a week, not 8 or more hours a day, but 8 or more hours a week, that person, a contribution should be paid on behalf of that person. Now, I know there's a lot of employers out there who likes to say that the person is on probation. Now, when it comes to Social Security payments, the payments of contribution. There's no probation period or any sort of thing like that. You start to pay from the first day you begin to work for that particular employer. Okay? So for those employers who are out there and believe that there is a grace period of that they call probation, and so Social Security is not due during that time, that is not correct. You are to pay for your employees as long as they are working 8 or more hours a week from the first day they start working with you. Thank you.
Righty, a question here from Mar. Another interesting question. Mar says, if a person has a life insurance and gets pregnant and is employed, can she get the maternity benefit from Social Security or only the maternity benefit from the insurance? So this is a person who has, they have insurance from a private company. Alrighty.
The Social Security scheme is a contributory scheme, and it will not have anything to do with the life insurance that you are paying. Once you pay into the system, once your contributions are paid into the system and you qualify for maternity benefit would be payable. As it pertains to maternity benefit, you must have 50 contributions paid since 1981. And in the 39 weeks before you have your baby, you have to have at least 25 contributions to determine whether you will qualify for the benefit or not. Of that 25 contributions, at least 20 of those contributions have to be paid, and we consider credited contributions, and credited contributions is where are taken into account in case you were sick at any given time. Once you qualify, we would pay. Once you meet the qualifying contributions, we would pay. I would like to add to what Mr. McCoy said a while ago, the importance of paying Social Security contributions as of day one. We cover for any employment injuries that may occur as a result of your employment, and you're covered as of the first day. So it's important that contributions are paid as of the first day.
Okay, another excellent question from David. David says, if both the husband and wife are pensioners and one dies, does the survivor get both pensions?
Let me just read your question. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to read and understand your question. If your husband is receiving a pension and the husband dies and the wife has not submitted her retirement claim, the law makes provision for the wife to claim for both the survivor benefit as a result of the death of her husband and her retirement benefit. In the reversed for men, that does not apply.
Okay, we have a follow-up question here from some commentary on a question. Jose says that this is very helpful information, and he wants to know if his daughters are included in his beneficiary information, okay, in the payments that he makes. Are his children included? Or does he need to pay Social Security for each of them?
As a contributor, once you as the father contribute to the scheme, automatically all your children would be covered as your beneficiaries. You would not have to register them or pay individually for them. At this point of time, if you would die, all your children will have the right to make a survivor claim, and a benefit will be payable to your spouse and to your children. All the evidence that they will have to present is the evidence, their birth certificate showing that you are the father, and it's based on that once they're below the age of 21 and attending full-time education, they'd be entitled to 25% of whatever benefit you would have been entitled to. Your wife or your spouse or your common law would be entitled to 66.67% of whatever benefit you would have been entitled to. You don't need to make individual contributions for them.
Great. And a question here from Scortopian, Queen Rhonda. And it's similar to the question that David made a little earlier. She says if a person is getting survivor's pension from a deceased husband and the survivor happened to have her pension awaiting her retirement age, does the person get both? So the answer to that, Rhonda, is yes. The wife would be eligible to receive her pension and the survivor's pension from her spouse. Okay, so there is a question here from Elra, and Elra says, can an insured person get out of their benefit or contribution before retirement? I presume she is referring to whether or not the person can perhaps maybe borrow money or cash out on their contributions before retirement age.
Yeah, I'm not too sure of the question myself, but I will interpret it a little bit different. Not sure if the person is asking, if Elra is asking if they can collect their whatever payment is entitled to them before retirement age. And the answer to that would be there's a yes and a no. Because if the person is, let's say if the person retire medically, then the person can collect a benefit. Other than that, there is no other, you cannot collect, so to speak, from your contribution without being retired or without being medically retired. Now, in terms of the other interpretation, if you can maybe borrow from your your contribution, that does not really work that way. The Social Security do have investments, and where they invest in certain areas of the economy, but as an individual, that option is not available for you to come in and you know make a claim or make a loan, so to speak. Thank you.
Okay, and I see one more question here from Chris. Chris says, if a wife is receiving monthly benefits from her deceased husband's pension, will the benefit stop if she starts living with another man, or will it only apply if she happens to remarry?
Thanks for your question. As it relates to survivor pension being received by the wife, if at any point of time she engages in a common law relationship or remarries, this pension would cease.
Right, and Chris' question is actually the last question that we have in our queue, which brings us to the end of this episode of Click and Connect. We thank you so much for all the questions that you presented today, and bear in mind that your names will be entered in a raffle to win 3 amazing prizes. We thank you for watching, and until next time, from Mrs. Marie Chavarria, Mr. Carlton McCoy, and Moeva Fuller, good luck, stay safe, and bye.